On my wedding night with the crippled, tyrannical seventh prince, I was about to bash my head against the wall and die when a line of bullet comments suddenly appeared before my eyes. The seventh prince adores pretty little things with fair skin and a tiny waist like you. Touch his abs, and he'll definitely spare your life. My tears caught in my throat. Death was death either way. Trembling, I stretched my paw out toward the seventh prince. On my wedding night with the crippled, tyrannical seventh prince, I shook like a leaf and wept bitter tears. Just as I mustered the courage to bash my head against the wall, a line of bullet comments flared up. Don't bash your head. The seventh prince loves soft little beauties with fair skin and a slim waist like you. Touch his abs, and he'll never kill you. My tears halted midstream. I stole a glance up. The seventh prince stared at me with an icy cold expression, like a vengeful ghost from the underworld. I jolted in terror, then the comments refreshed. Don't let his fierce face fool you. He's burning hot on the inside. Little beauty, go for it. Pounce on him and ravage him. Death was inevitable either way. I squeezed my eyes shut, resolved to take a desperate gamble, and inched toward him. My legs shaking so hard they felt like chopsticks. I stretched out my trembling paw, ready to risk it all, after his legs were crippled. The seventh prince Chu Yuju's temper had turned volatile and brutal beyond measure. Rumor had it 18 stunningly beautiful women had died on their wedding nights with him, and I was the 19th. Tears streaming down my face, I stared at the red-painted beam in the room, thinking it would be less torturous to bash my head to death before he could strangle me. I tensed my body, about to lunge, when a line of bullet comments popped up. Don't hit the wall. The seventh prince adores pretty little things with fair skin and a tiny waist like you. Touch his abs, and he'll definitely spare your life. My tears caught in my throat. I snuck a peek at his abdomen. His bright red wedding robe was thin, and I could almost make out the outline of taut muscles beneath. The seventh prince's gaze was frigid as he fixed it on me. A spectre come to claim my soul. I shuddered, and the comments flashed again. Don't let his fierce exterior fool you. He's blazing hot on the inside. Little beauty, go for it. Pounce on him and ravage him. Death was certain either way. I closed my eyes and took the leap. I forced my shaking legs forward, stretching out my paw recklessly toward him. Before my hand could touch him, my legs gave out. I stumbled, hurtling straight into his arms. A faint, pleasant sandalwood scent filled my nostrils. I sniffled, and when I came to my senses, I was met with his face, blacker than a pot of burnt ink. I'm doomed. How could I mess up this badly? Was I in such a hurry to die? Trembling, I tried to push myself up, my mind in a whirl, and my hand landed on something hard, firm, and muscular. What's that? I glanced down to find my paw resting, quite audaciously, on his thigh. I jumped in fright, my foot slipping, and before I could stand, I plopped right back down in his lap. This is it. I'm definitely going to die a horrible death now, through the thin fabric of his wedding robe. I could feel the warmth of his body seeping into mine. Terrified out of my wits, I sobbed even harder, fat tears rolling down my cheeks. Seventh prince, please, spare my life. I'll do anything you ask. I didn't mean it. I swear I'll never dare again. Silly girl, she still thinks he's going to kill her. Can't she see he's practically red-eyed from her little stunt? This little beauty is too innocent. Her crying is so pitiful it tugs at the heartstrings. The seventh prince's breathing is all ragged. Bet he's in agony down there right now. The seventh prince frowned, his voice cold as ice. Get up. I scrambled off him in a panic, standing to the side, my mind fixated on the comment in agony down there. Of course he was in pain, his legs were crippled, and I was so heavy, I'd crashed right onto them. It's a miracle they weren't broken to bits. I snuck a guilty glance at his legs, the ones I just injured. Twisting my fingers nervously together, he spoke again then. I'm tired, help me undress and get into bed. So he's not going to kill me, yet, or is he going to wait until we're in bed to do it? I had no time to overthink. I stepped forward meekly. Before entering the manor, the matron had taught me how to attend to a husband's daily needs. I carefully slipped off his wedding robe, then helped him onto the bed. He was far heavier than he looked. Despite straining every muscle, I lost my balance. And he toppled right on top of me, pinning me to the bed. His breathing grew heavy with anger, hot against my ear. I shook even harder. "I'm so sorry, seventh prince. I'll eat more from now on. I promise I'll never let you fall again. Please don't be angry." I pushed with all my might, trying to squirm out from under him. He pinned my wrists down, his voice sharp with irritation. "Stop moving." For no reason at all, the wedding candles in the room snuffed out at the same time. His breath turned scorching hot against my neck, raising a trail of goosebumps on my skin. I froze, not daring to move a muscle, even holding my breath without realizing it. The bullet comments flitted across my vision once more. "Looks like the little beauty's not dying tonight. The seventh prince is about to lose all control. Lose all control. Does that mean he's going to eat me?" I squeezed my eyes shut, waiting for my fate to be sealed, my heart in my throat, but he made no other move. After what felt like an eternity, his breathing steadied, slow and even against my skin. The seventh prince had fallen asleep on top of me. He was so heavy. I swear I'm going to be squashed flat into a green bean cake, but I didn't dare move an inch. If I woke him up, he'd surely snap my neck. I lay there, crushed beneath him, every second stretching into an eternity. By the middle of the night, my arms and legs had gone completely numb, the sensation fading away. I couldn't take it anymore. Better to die a quick death than suffer like this. I finally made up my mind, wriggling desperately to push him off me. Chu Yuju jolted awake, his large palm closing around my throat in a silent vice, his voice cold and deadly. "What are you doing?" I'd meant to be bold, but the threat of my neck being snapped like a twig made me instantly cowardly. I opened my mouth to apologize when the familiar bullet comments appeared. "Don't be scared, little beauty. Act coquettish with him. And he'll never hurt you." Act coquettish? That can't possibly work, I mumbled, my voice small and shaky. "You're squashing my arms and legs. They're numb and hurt." Chu Yuju froze. To my utter shock, he actually rolled off me, shifting to the inner side of the bed. Acting coquettish actually worked. Little Taoxing has no idea how adorable she looked muttering that. The seventh prince is probably melting into a puddle from that tiny little voice. What on earth is all this nonsense? My eyes widened in surprise. I hadn't even had time to catch my breath when he suddenly tugged my arm, pulling me into his side. In the dark, I crashed into his hard chest, holding my breath so tight my lungs burned. His large hand wrapped around my arm, and he gently squeezed, then patted it, over and over, instead of snapping my arm like a twig. The seventh prince was massaging me. His hands were surprisingly skilled. Before long, the numbness in my arms and legs faded away, the feeling returning to my limbs. Maybe the seventh prince wasn't as cruel and tyrannical as the rumors said. My racing heart calmed a little, and before I knew it, I'd drifted off to sleep. I'd thought marrying into the seventh prince's manor meant certain death, yet somehow, I'd clung to life for several days, every night. My only duties were to help him undress and carry him from his wheelchair to the bed. We slept on opposite sides of the bed, two separate quilts between us, a clear line drawn in the sand, no bother, no contact. I barely saw him during the day, free to do as I pleased. Curl up in my room eating green bean cakes and reading storybooks, or lie in the courtyard sunbathing. It was a peaceful life, all things considered, but I still feared him. A row of tall pomegranate trees lined the courtyard, heavy with bright red fruit, like little lanterns hanging from the branches. I'd been craving them for days, and finally decided to climb the tree and pick some today. I'd sent my maid Xiao Hua to the kitchen to fetch snacks, then slipped off my embroidered shoes and scrambled up the trunk, hoisting myself onto a sturdy branch with ease. I'd been an orphan since I was a child, forced to fend for myself to fill my stomach. Climbing trees was second nature to me. I'd done it 100 times. And I was confident in my skills. The big, plump pomegranates looked irresistible. I picked the 3 largest ones, hugging them to my chest, one for me, one for Xiao Hua, and one for the 7th prince. I was scared of him, but I was also grateful. Here, no one bullied me. Life was far better than it had ever been in the Li Manor. I clutched the pomegranates, ready to climb back down, until I glanced down and saw a figure standing beneath the tree, unbidden. The 7th prince sat in his wheelchair, his head tilted up to stare at me, his expression as cold and impassive as ever. I stumbled, losing my balance, and went tumbling down from the branch, the pomegranates flying from my arms. A fall was nothing. I'd tumbled out of trees countless times as a child. But fate was cruel. He was sitting directly below me. If I landed on him, I'd surely cripple his legs even worse. And then, there was no way I'd live to see another day. In that split second of terror, I twisted my body in mid-air, somehow managing to shift my position with a ridiculous display of superior air suspension. Instead of landing on him, I crashed to the ground a foot in front of his wheelchair. Thank goodness. My face hit the dirt, and I'm mouthful of mud, but it was just a little pain. Nothing serious. I lay on the ground, tilting my head up to look at him, and forced a silly grin. 7th prince, you're back early today. The bullet comments popped up again. Ha ha ha, the little cannon fodder flailing her legs in midair was priceless. What a joke her superior air suspension is. Little Taoxing, you fool, if you hadn't flailed around like that, your prince husband would have caught you. Didn't you see him about to stand up? Stand up? How could a crippled man stand up? What absolute nonsense. I was still confused when he leaned down, pinching my muddy cheek between his fingers, his tone laced with mild disgust. What on earth were you doing? I came to my senses and quickly pulled out a pomegranate, holding it out to him with a fawning smile. The pomegranates in the yard are ripe. I picked one for you, husband. As soon as the words left my mouth, I realized my mistake. Oh no, I'd seen the word husband in the bullet comments and blurted it out without thinking. Would the 7th prince think the address was disrespectful and kill me for it? My heart raced with panic as I stole a cautious glance at his face. Ooh. That sweet little husband. The 7th prince must be over the moon. For that one word alone, he'll definitely be taking care of himself in secret tonight while the little cutie sleeps. I dare not imagine the scene. The comments were positively terrifying. Thankfully, there was no change in his icy expression as he calmly took the pomegranate from my hand. I let out a breath of relief, scrambled to my feet, and brushed the dirt off my skirt. That night, my mind was filled with the nonsense from the bullet comments, and I lay awake long into the night, until I heard a soft rustling beside me, and the bed began to shake slightly. I shrank into my quilt, trembling, and inched a little farther away from Chu Yuzhu. The trip back to my maiden home for the post-wedding visit fell on the 8th day after our marriage. After the maids bathed and dressed me, I was sent back to the Li Manor. My elder half-sister Li Chuanwan saw I'd come alone, and a sneer curled her lips. They say the 7th prince is a cruel killer, yet here you are, alive and well for your visit. What a pity. A maid beside her chortled in agreement. What's the point of living? She's clearly out of favor. A visit this important, and she has to come alone. Plain to see how little that cripple thinks of the 5th young lady. Poor little Taoxing, married to a crippled, ugly prince. Don't worry, when I marry the crown prince someday, I'll be sure to look after you. I was long used to their cold taunts and jeers, yet my mind couldn't help but drift to the 7th prince's cold, handsome face. I thought my sister was wrong, and spoke up to defend him. The 7th prince isn't ugly, he's very good-looking. No sooner had I said it than I heard my father, Master Li, shout in anger. How dare you mere girls speak of the 7th prince? Seize this insolent maid, beat her 50 times with the rod, and sell her outside the manor. I stood there, dumbfounded. As several men stepped out from behind a large stone nearby, leading them was the seventh prince, being pushed by a servant. My father followed at his side, his face dark as thunder as he looked at us. The little cannon fodders got perfect timing with that flattery. The seventh prince must be overjoyed. I declare her the cutest little cannon fodder I've ever seen, clumsy and adorable, like raising a daughter from afar. Father had always favored my half-sister. And now he said nothing of her blatant disrespect, laying all the blame on the maid instead. After dealing with the maid, he turned his glare on me. And you, Li Taoxing, how dare you speak of the seventh prince so frivolously? It's clear I haven't disciplined you strictly enough. Bring the family punishment rod. All I'd done was say he wasn't ugly. If that was frivolous talk, what of Li Chuanwan's words? I stared down at the pointed toes of my embroidered shoes peeking out from under my skirt, and said nothing in my defense. Fine, let them punish me. I'd be returning to the Li Manor less and less from now on anyway, and I'd probably be dead soon enough. Compared to that, a beating was nothing. I was the least favored young lady in the Li Manor, and injustice had followed me all my life. Even the servants here could bully me at will. No one would listen to my side of the story, no one would stand up for me. I was used to it. I waited calmly for the punishment until the seventh prince's cold voice cut through the air. Li Taoxing. I looked up at him, confused. Chu Yuzhu crooked a finger at me. Come here. Okay. I scurried over, and his fingers suddenly closed around mine. He pulled me behind him, his eyes cold and mocking as he fixed them on my father. Master Li has quite the nerve. Do you think you can punish a prince's consort as you please? And I heard every word. Your favoritism is far too obvious. Father clearly hadn't expected Chu Yuzhu to stand up for me, and his face flushed with embarrassment. I hadn't expected it either. I stared down at my shoes, feeling the warmth of his fingers around mine, and my eyes grew hot and wet. It must be getting warmer these days. That's all. On the carriage back to the prince's manor, Chu Yuzhu and I sat side by side. It was the first time we'd ridden a carriage together, and in the small, enclosed space, we seemed unnaturally close. I plucked up the courage to tug gently at his sleeve, and when he turned to look at me, I whispered, sincere and soft, "Thank you, seventh prince." Chu Yuzhu froze for a moment, then averted his gaze, lifting the back of his hand to brush at my eyes, his tone laced with mild disgust. Why are you crying? You didn't cry when you fell out of that tree, yet now you're sobbing over a few harsh words. Are you stupid, letting people treat you like this and not fighting back? You're the seventh prince's consort, no random nobody can push you around. I saw you had a little talent for martial arts the other day. I'll find you a master to teach you, so you won't be helpless if someone bullies you outside. I folded my hands demurely in front of me and listened silently to his words, my eyes lighting up with excitement. Learn martial arts. It was something I'd dreamed of my whole life. Oh, my baby girl's so clumsy and cute. Her crying breaks my heart. Who could bear not to cradle this little treasure and comfort her? Why is she calling him seventh prince again? She called him husband yesterday. Be good. Little cannon fodder, call him husband and you'll get a sweet treat. The bullet comments were chattering nonsense again, and my face burned bright red in an instant. The seventh prince spoke then. Why is your face so red? Do you have a fever? My mind turned to mush. I opened my mouth to say I was fine, but the only word that came out was, husband. Stupid mouth. Why do you always say the wrong thing? I seethed with embarrassment, but the seventh prince did not rebuke me. He only coughed lightly, lifted the carriage curtain to look at the scenery outside, and turned his back to me. That night, I did not inch away from Chu Yuzhu as I usually did. Once his breathing steadied into sleep, I wrapped my quilt around me and crept quietly over to his side, pressing my cheek gently against his shoulder and nuzzling it softly. His familiar sandalwood scent washed over me, filling me with an inexplicable sense of peace and safety. I let out a small, muffled whimper, my cheeks burning hot. I wasn't afraid of him anymore. Sneaking such a cheap thrill while he slept was embarrassing enough, yet the shameless bullet comments had to pop up again. What's the little cannon fodder doing? She's like a little puppy. I want her soft little cheeks nuzzling my shoulder too. The seventh prince's mouth is practically twitching into a smile. He's only pretending to be asleep. Pretending to be asleep. The courage I'd mustered vanished in an instant. Shrinking to the size of a sesame seed, I didn't dare linger a moment longer, and scurried back to my side of the bed, wrapping my quilt tight around me. But I'd barely moved an inch when a strong arm snaked around my waist from behind and hauled me back. Chuyuju's arms were surprisingly powerful, pulling me quilt and all into his embrace. I froze, trembling with fear, but he made no other move. He only held me close, his steady breath fanning gently against my neck. He was still asleep. Clearly, the bullet comments were lying, as usual. I let out a quiet breath of relief. It was the first time anyone had ever held me while I slept. My mother had died giving birth to me, and no one in the Lee Manor had ever wanted to be close to me. This was the first time someone had willingly held me. It was only an unconscious move in his sleep, something he'd never even remember doing, but I clung to the feeling greedily. I thought my mother's arms must have been this warm too. I buried my face deeper in his chest, ready to close my eyes and sleep when the bullet comments appeared again, the little cannon fodders getting bolder and bolder. All this cuddling and nuzzling, who could resist? The seventh prince is such a fraud, blushing like that and still pretending to be asleep. Move over and let me take your place for an episode. I squeezed my eyes shut tight, and the comments finally faded away, leaving the world in peaceful silence. Chuyuju was a man of his word. A few days later, he brought a cold, elegant beauty back to the manor, and told me to call her master. The woman exuded an air of quiet mastery, even at a glance. I obediently called her master, and fawningly handed her a cup of tea, my heart bursting with joy. I was finally going to learn martial arts. It was a dream come true, yet my joy was short-lived, as two more bullet comments flitted across my vision. Oh no, the female lead GU is here. The little cannon fodder's hard days are about to begin. My heart aches thinking about the little cannon fodder dying at the female lead's hands. Sniffle, my poor baby girl. This beautiful master was going to kill me. I couldn't wrap my head around it. Why would someone as lovely as her want to hurt me? I was nothing, a useless little quail in the prince's manor. Killing me wouldn't even make a ripple. If I died, no one would shed a single tear for me. The thought brought a faint twinge of sadness. I was actually quite afraid of death, especially now that I'd tasted a little happiness in the prince's manor. I clung even more tightly to life. I didn't want to leave the exciting storybooks, or the delicious green bean cakes, and least of all the warm embrace I fell asleep in every night. Chuyuju's arms were warm and fragrant, and I craved the feeling more and more each day. Please don't kill me so soon, I prayed silently in my heart. In the original story, Chuyuju lets the female lead kill the little cannon fodder. She's so pitiful, finally having a good life only to die young. The seventh prince will fall in love with the female lead soon, won't he? My candle and apricot CP is going to break. War, baby girl. Remember, on the 9th day of next month, stay far away from GU and the seventh prince, especially the rockery by the water. If you accidentally overhear their plot, you're a goner, this time. The comments were loaded with information. I'd never dared to hope the seventh prince would fall in love with me, but the sudden news that he'd soon love someone else filled my heart with an inexplicable sense of loss and sorrow. Li Taoxing, you've had too many good days, and now you're getting greedy. I patted my not-so-bright head, then remembered the bullet comment about staying far from the rockery by the water on the 9th day of the next month, committing it firmly to memory. I didn't care the slightest about any plots or schemes. I only wanted to live a little longer. It seemed I really did have an extraordinary talent for martial arts. In just half a month, I could flit between trees and rooftops with effortless ease, with my daily green bean cake offerings. The beautiful master's attitude toward me had lost its initial coldness and rigidity. I knew it, no one could resist the charm of green bean cakes. Truth be told, I had my own little clever tricks. They say eating someone's food softens their heart, and I only hoped that if the day ever came when I had to die, the beautiful master would go easy on me for the sake of all those green bean cakes. Chuyuju had been terribly busy lately, and hadn't come back to sleep at the manor for several nights in a row. Now that I'd learned lightness skill, moving about the prince's manor was even more free than before. I counted the days, and on the 9th day, I snuck out of the prince's manor bright and early. I wandered aimlessly along the streets until dark, everything around me a novel delight. I had never roamed so leisurely outside the Li Manor and the 7th Prince's manor before. The sky grew dark, and the street vendors lit their lanterns, calling out their wares. I stopped in front of a candied hawthorn stall. Strings of bright red candied hawthorns, plump and glossy, were utterly tempting. "Miss, would you like a string?" "Freshly made candied hawthorns. If it's not sweet, it's free," the vendor called out when he saw me pause. I wanted it, but I didn't have a single coin on me. I was about to wave and politely decline when a commotion suddenly broke out on a stone bridge not far away. I turned and walked straight toward the bridge, not looking back, leaving the vendor's shouts behind me. I'd been telling myself to stay away from water, but outside the Li Manor and the 7th Prince's manor, I didn't know the roads at all, and I'd unknowingly walked right to this stone bridge. It turned out a young lady from some family had been playing by the river and fallen in by accident. She cried out for help repeatedly in the water, and a crowd had gathered to watch, but no one stepped forward to rescue her. Watching her grow weaker by the second, I pushed through the crowd, pressed my hands against the stone railing of the bridge, and leaped down. I'd read too many storybooks, and had picked up a little of that chivalrous spirit of roaming the rivers and lakes with a sword. Besides, I was no longer a clueless novice with no martial arts skills at all. I simply couldn't stand by and watch someone die. I fished the young lady out of the water, and was about to leap back onto the bridge when I caught sight of her face and froze. "Li Taoxing, it's you," a shrill voice rang out. It was none other than my arrogant and overbearing elder half-sister, Li Chuanwan. If I'd known it was her, I never would have saved her. I was silently regretting it when Li Chuanwan suddenly struggled violently in my arms, kicking me hard with her legs and scratching at my face with her long, thin nails. My clumsy martial arts skills were no match for her, and in a moment of inattention, she pushed me back into the water. She, on the other hand, was pulled ashore by the kind onlookers. I crashed heavily into the water, and only then did it dawn on me that I couldn't swim. Icy river water poured into my nose and lungs, and I sank slowly, losing consciousness. I heard two voices talking beside me. I'd recognized Chuyuju's voice even if I turned to ash. "This plan must succeed. If we fail, we will both be doomed to eternal damnation." Then came the beautiful master's cold reply, "I know. And what about her? What do you plan to do with her?" "Naturally, kill her." "Very well." I squinted my eyes and peeked at the two of them, only to catch sight of a rockery beside them, a rockery by the water, a plot between two people, a death sentence bug. All the pieces were in place, but the problem was, I hadn't heard a single word of the actual plan. Killing me just like that, wasn't that a little too hasty? I swallowed hard and decided to keep pretending to be dead, but Chuyuju's voice rang out beside me. "Get up if you're awake." Was he talking to me? I sneaked open one eye furtively, and saw that Chuyuju had wheeled his wheelchair over to my side at some point. "7th Prince." I scrambled to my feet at once, brushing the mud off my clothes. The 7th Prince definitely didn't want little Taoxing to die at first, otherwise he wouldn't have rushed into the water to save her so urgently. It's just a shame she woke up at the worst possible time. What's the use of that? The seventh prince still likes the female lead more. Otherwise, why would he just acquiesce when she said to kill her? Poor little cannon fodder. I stared dumbly at Chu Yuzhu's familiar face, a dull sadness welling up in my heart. Chu Yuzhu looked at me, confused. What are you staring at? Let's go home. Seeing this, the beautiful master also walked over. Her face was cold, but she raised her hand and felt my forehead. No fever. Did water get into your head? In that moment, I felt just like a little child being fussed over by her parents. If they didn't want to kill me, this scene would have been truly warm. After that day, Chu Yuzhu's supervision of me grew much stricter. I tried several times to pack my things and sneak out of the prince's manor, but was caught by the hidden guards every single time. I wondered if they'd reported me to Chu Yuzhu. Chu Yuzhu was even busier lately, and so was the beautiful master. I hadn't seen either of them in days. I'd been quite busy too, busy finishing all the unread storybooks. I knew my days were numbered. On this day, Chu Yuzhu came back for a rare visit. He told Xiao Hehua to dress me up nicely, then took me into the palace with him. On the way, I found out it was the current emperor's birthday. The palace hall was resplendent with gold and jade, filled with fine wine and delicious food, beautiful women dancing, and an atmosphere of great merriment. I sat beside Chu Yuzhu, silently shoveling food into my mouth. Yo, why is the imperial sister-in-law eating so fast? Could it be that the imperial brother treats you badly on a daily basis? Slow down, this is the palace, not the seventh prince's manor. There's plenty of food here. Someone spoke first, and then everyone turned to look at me, snickering behind their hands. The emperor sat on the throne at the head, shot me a disgusted look, and sneered coldly. What a disgrace, Yuzhu. Is this how you discipline your wife? Truly a blot on scholarly dignity, a vulgar thing. Even I, the most overlooked concubine's daughter in the Li manor, knew that the current emperor had 9 sons and 3 daughters, and the 7th prince was his most hated son. Years ago, the emperor had gone incognito to tour his realm, only to be tricked and drugged, spending a night of passion with a courtesan from a brothel. 2 years later, the courtesan had brought the 7th prince back to claim his paternal kinship. The emperor had felt his dignity insulted, had the woman executed in public, and only kept the 7th prince alive. All these years, the emperor had never given the 7th prince a single kind look, and even encouraged the other princes to bully and humiliate him. If he hadn't still cared about his image in front of his ministers, he would have had the 7th prince and his mother put to death that very day. Though I was foolish, I knew I had disgraced Chu Yuzhu at this moment. The roast duck in my mouth suddenly lost all its flavor. I looked at Chu Yuzhu with a trace of guilt. He wiped the grease from the corner of my mouth with a handkerchief, and in a comforting gesture, handed me another crispy, tender duck leg. But I had lost all my appetite. I set the duck leg down, rose from the table, and said I was going to the latrine. My feelings for Chu Yuzhu were truly complicated. He had let me live a life of luxury, with no worries about food or clothing, and no one in the 7th prince's manor dared to bully me at will. He had stood up for me at the Li manor, found someone to teach me martial arts, and would hold me tight and pat my head when I had nightmares at night. I liked him very much, and would feel sad for him when others made fun of him. But thinking of that day when he had asked the beautiful master how to dispose of me, as if I were just an object, and had only replied with a cold very well when she said to kill me, I felt lost and helpless all over again. The palace was still brightly lit at night. I wandered outside for a long time, and only when my mood had calmed down did I trudge back slowly. But I hadn't walked far when I saw a commotion ahead. Palace maids and eunuchs were fleeing in all directions. When a few people ran past me, I barely managed to make out what they were shouting. Fire! Fire! Come put out the fire! An ominous feeling rose in my heart at once. I turned against the flow of people and ran back. The once resplendent palace hall was now engulfed in blazing flames, the roaring fire as if it would devour the entire building at any moment. "Where's the seventh prince? Where is the seventh prince?" I grabbed the nearest young eunuch and asked, "The seventh prince? Don't mention the seventh prince, even the emperor is still inside. Save the emperor, save the emperor." With such a huge fire.
My fault for eating too well lately. I'd put on quite a bit of weight. I calmed down, my peripheral vision catching sight of the blood on the back of Chu Yuju's hand. Chu Yuju risked his hand to protect the little cannon fodder. This is love. Plain and simple. War, my baby girl is so brave. She rushed into the fire without a second thought to save the seventh prince. Mommy is so proud of you. Bullet comments flitted across my vision. A twinge of guilt washed over me. If I hadn't messed things up, Chu Yuju never would have gotten hurt saving me. I carefully lifted Chu Yuju's hand in mine. "Does it hurt?" His expression was as calm and impassive as ever. No, how could it not hurt? He was injured this badly. Why was I so stupid? I held his hand tight. Fat tears plummeting down my cheeks. Chu Yuju jumped in surprise, quickly wiping my tears with his uninjured hand. "Why are you crying? Are you hurt anywhere?" I finally learned the truth about Chu Yuju's plan. Overnight, the imperial capital changed hands. All of the late emperor's heirs had died in the fire, and the seventh prince Chu Yuju was the sole survivor. He ascended the throne as the new emperor. No one questioned why he alone had lived when so many others had died, nor why his legs had miraculously healed overnight. How such a coincidence could be possible? All the ministers feigned ignorance, and those who refused to play along were presumably dead in the fire. I also finally finished that half-read storybook. The little palace maid had succeeded in avenging her mother, but her identity had been exposed in the process, and she'd chosen to meet her death voluntarily. I sobbed until I could barely breathe, my vision blurry with tears, when a shrill cry of "Long live the emperor" cut through the air. Two figures appeared in my sight, a man and a woman, Chu Yuju and the beautiful master. What was meant to be would always come to pass. Was this finally the day I would die? My body tensed up at once, and I forced a stiff smile, picking up a plate of green bean cakes beside me and holding it out to the beautiful master. "Master, fresh green bean cakes. Please try one, they're delicious." To my surprise, the beautiful master agreed at once. "Very well." She walked over to me, her slender fingers picking up a green bean cake, but she did not swallow it. "Taoxing, I'm here to tell you something." What could it be? Was she really going to tell me before she killed me? The beautiful master was far too polite. I twisted the hem of my clothes in my fingers. "What is it, master?" She raised her free hand and brushed off a crumb of green bean cake from my clothes. "I'm here to say goodbye. My great revenge is avenged, and I'm leaving. I'm afraid I won't be able to teach you martial arts any longer." Huh? I stared at her in dumbfounded shock. This was nothing like what the bullet comments had said. The beautiful master really left. It turned out the her they'd talked about killing that day was the late empress, her elder sister. The fall of Hemu Kingdom all those years ago had been no small thanks to the late empress's treachery. And the beautiful master had come to slay the traitor with her own hands. It had all been a misunderstanding. What a relief. I could go back to my carefree life as a couch potato once more. Chu Yuju seemed to have free time lately, coming to my chambers to sleep every night, though his legs were healed, and I no longer had to carry him from his wheelchair to the bed each night. His legs had become far more agile, and he loved to drape them over me. He was so heavy. I woke up with a sore back and aching waist every morning. That was bad enough, but he even made me his empress. All the affairs of the harem gave me a splitting headache, cutting into the time I had for reading storybooks. This simply wouldn't do. I was wallowing in worry when a eunuch came to report that Master Li of the Li Manor requested an audience, so my so-called father hadn't died in the fire either. I waved my sleeve and decided to see him. My worthless father knelt on the ground, his face oozing with flattery. "Empress Dowager, your father has not seen you in a long time, and misses you dearly." His sickening words made me gag, and a mouthful of green bean cake shot out of my mouth. What a waste. Xiao Hua quickly handed me a cup of tea to clear my throat. I sipped the tea, asking in confusion, "Father, you've bribed and embezzled, burned and plundered. How on earth are you still alive and well?" You unfilial daughter, how dare you curse me to death? Master Li flew into a rage, jumping straight to his feet from the ground. Father, I am the Empress, second only to the Emperor himself. This is nothing short of great disrespect. I said it lightly, without a care. Before I could say more, Chu Yuzhu walked in, unannounced. Master Li has been taking bribes and committing all manner of evils for years. With conclusive evidence, seize him and drag him out for beheading. My worthless father was dead too, fearing I would be sad. Chu Yuzhu collected countless folk storybooks for me to read. I stared at the stack of storybooks, taller than I was, and twirled around him in delight. Thank you, Your Majesty. I wasn't sad at all. I had countless storybooks to read, an endless supply of green bean cakes. Chu Yuzhu held me to sleep every night, and no one dared to bully me. I was over the moon.